You are listening to Here Before, Here Now, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of Here Before, Here Now. I am really excited about my guests. I'll have more on her in just a moment, but if you did not get the chance yet, please go listen to my latest episode that dropped a couple weeks ago, my interview with Miss Indian Arizona. She shed light on some really cool, amazing things about her journey and her mission in achieving this pageant title, and also what she wants to accomplish for the 22 tribes here in Arizona. So if you haven't done that yet, so please go check that out. But today I am super excited to bring you Natalie Benally. So I have spoken with Natalie before. We have actually, she was on a podcast that I previously did before this one, and I am so excited to talk to her because in the last several years since I've spoken with her, she's accomplished a lot more. And when I first spoke with her, she was already pretty accomplished. So I did some Google searching. I just put in Natalie Benally, and I found this. Natalie, I know that you're listening. This is from Dance USA. So this is part of her resume. Listen to how extensive this is. Natalie Benally is a dancer, choreographer, filmmaker, writer, actor, and community language advocate from the Navajo Nation. She has directed and choreographed numerous theater productions. She's also become involved in film, television productions, both as crew and in creative direction. And also a really cool thing to note, Natalie also dubbed the Navajo language Finding Nemo, and she voiced Dory, which is where we first spoke with each other several years ago. How you been, Natalie?
Again, just so many things happening all at once, but it's been nothing but good things. So I'm very, very happy and feel very blessed to be at this point in time.
Hey, gosh, back then, I don't even remember how long ago the interview was, but we were talking about you voicing Dory as the Navajo language dub. And right now that's easily accessible. I think I had to hunt down a DVD for that, but people can go to Disney Plus and click on the extras, and they can find Navajo Nemo. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, no, that was definitely, it was definitely during the pandemic. I remember because we had done it over Zoom.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's kind of insane to see how much more accessible a lot of this content is for people to be able to watch and enjoy from their, from their living room. So yeah, it's been definitely a crazy ride to see it just jump and skyrocket to just everyone now being able to have access to it, which I think is also really exciting.
And I know that you have a daughter of your own. Has she seen the movie in Navajo?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's been something that she definitely brags about to her friends.
Yeah, that's awesome. And also Star Wars, the Navajo version is also accessible now on Disney Plus.
Yeah, no, I think that's really awesome that like they saw the want and desire for people to experience this more. And it really was, I feel like, an initiative that began from the community. I mean, more the community wanted to have access to the movies. And I think with that push from them, it, became available on Disney Plus within that year. So it was awesome to see how many people voiced their desire to want it on Disney Plus, and they made it happen.
Wow. So judging by this description of you, you wear many hats. I mean, you're doing a lot right now. Tell me how you're able to juggle all of these things at once.
Oh, I feel like I've definitely learned to be consistent in the way that I schedule things, and also learning how to say thank you, but no has been very helpful in that area.
Yeah, saying no can be very powerful, right?
Yeah, I think it's just being able to assess and really kind of be honest with myself of like, yes, I could do all of these things and I could make it all work, but that would be at the detriment of like my own personal well-being. So being able to sort of understand, okay, I can say yes to this and say no to that. And then I can also say maybe next time. But then usually that always is a nice way to kind of like lead it into more of a future thing too. So yeah, it's been practice, but I'm getting better at it each year.
Protecting your peace is what I've come to find. That's what that is called. So I'm glad then you said yes to my message and asking to be on my podcast because I know you're doing a lot. Feel a little bit honored now. Okay, so, I was speaking with Billy Luther several weeks ago, and I also spoke with Charlie Hogan about the movie Friebird Facing Me, which you can stream right now on Netflix. Coming of age tale about a Navajo boy who grew up in San Diego, goes back to the Navajo reservation, and is with family for a summer. And one of the cool things, Natalie, that I had seen while I was watching it was you were in charge of like the set direction of making that whole film come to life. Tell me about that experience, because I got to tell you personally, when I was watching it, I saw my family's home on TV, which was so like authentic. Tell me about that.
Yeah, no, it makes me so happy because we were very adamant. Me and my team were very adamant in making sure it was specifically tailored for a Navajo family that grew up on the Navajo reservation. Because I think sometimes what happens when you have non-Native production team members, or even just like non-Navajo production team members, there's a lot of like sort of like mixing and matching of different cultures that goes into the design and the look of the story, which, can either be a hit or a major miss. And so when I was approached by Billy and the producers, they wanted someone who knew this life inside and out. And even though this was the very first time that I was going to be art directing and helping build the world of the story, I was very confident the fact that I'm Navajo and I grew up on the Navajo reservation. That was my life up until I left to go to college in my teenage years. And so I was like, you know what, we're just going to jump right in. I'm just going to trust that I can do this job. And, hearing you say that, and so many people sharing how much they valued seeing an authentic representation of how they grew up, that's when I was like, yes, that's exactly what we were going for.
Yeah, I was like just taken aback at how real it was, from, the rugs hanging up on the wall to little figurines all over the place. For someone who is not familiar with that lifestyle or what that might look like, describe to us what that is.
Yeah, so I think, one of the things that I was very passionate about making sure was that there needed to be a delicate balance between a time and place that's modern, right? It takes place in the 90s. I mean, it's not modern now, but at that point in time in the story, it takes place in the 90s. And so you had to have obvious like representations of that. It's a contemporary time, right? This is not happening 50 or 100 years back in history, right? And so it had to be representation of the 90s. And also there also had to be these little quirky things that were from an earlier time before. So there's definitely things like that were from the 50s and the 60s, because, growing up, our houses on the res are made up of so many things that are modern, but also like from times past. And so that was like one of the, sort of, okay, we have to have things that are modern, but also like throw in these little random things that would have come from like our grandma's house, like back in the 30s or 40s. Right. And so that was one way we did that. And actually that whole entire set, Grandma's Ranch, was built from scratch. We had a little plot of land out near the Girls Ranch in Lamy, which is south of Santa Fe. And we looked at it and I was like, okay, cool. So we brought in the mobile home. We renovated that whole mobile home to make it look like a family had lived there for many years. We built a hogan, and even just like the intention of building the hogan to look a little bit more modern, with the way it was made, was also, again, a testament that this is, how we've sort of progressed over the years of using materials that were available to us. And then the sheep corral was made, the shed, everything was made from nothing.
Wow.
And all the things that were dressed, like all the little tad bits that you talked about, like the things in the hogan, things in the mobile home, that was all sourced from my house on the res and Billy's house out from his mother's house in Laguna, New Mexico. And anything that wasn't from our houses was graciously given and gifted to us by the community. And so it was just amazing to sort of see what it is. I wanted this to be a testament to, we are more than capable of doing this job. Like we can do this on our own to make sure that it's down to the detail, even down to like all the little things like the yucca that I helped bring in from my mom when we foraged out together, teaching the crew how to bundle Navajo tea, like making the cooking house, like teaching them how to go look for juniper branches. All that was so essential to making sure that we got it right and that we are more than capable of doing that. And as long as you have the trust and the, you know, sort of like confidence and hope that we can do that, you know, as Native people to be able to come up with a design and a set, it's possible. I mean, this whole project is a testament to that. So
Was art direction something that you ever thought you'd be asked to do, especially for a full-length movie like this?
no. You know,
Random,
you know,
right?
I had previous experience in production side of things, more so in theater than I did in TV and film at that point. But you know, I joke when I say this, but you know, where there's a Navajo woman, there's a way, right? So I had doubts and I had like, oh man, like I've never done this before. But I had the full confidence in my abilities at that point to say, you know, I know this life and I know this story because it's also a very similar to my story. So I just jumped full in and I just had, again, I had a fantastic team of a production designer, Jonathan Robot Long. Shout out Robot, who really just like allowed me to be a leader, which, you know, sometimes on these sets, you know, you either are given, you know, the chance to say, hey, this needs to be done this way, or it's seen as a suggestion as opposed to like a thing that needs to happen. And then I had, you know, some really amazing set dressers who really like got the details right based on how I coached them and how things needed to be, and who were also really great at like asking questions whenever I was teaching them something, you know. And I think that was just, you know, what I felt like made everything work very well.
Right. Well, that was really impactful, what you did. I know that from a lot of the comments we had received online with previous interviews, people were like, oh, it's like watching home. So good on you for making that happen. But not only do you have experience behind the camera, you're an actress as well. And most recently, you were in a couple of things. You were in Fox's The Accused. You played Shandine, who was an environmental activist. Tell me about that experience. I mean, being on a Fox show, prime time, and dealing with, you know, an issue that is really close to many Native American tribes when it comes to the environment.
Yeah, no, that was an amazing project that was written and directed by Tasba Chavez. Shout out Tasba. And yeah, so that was my first lead in a TV show. And so that was, of course, very intimidating, but like I was very excited and also very, again, passionate because it is a story that is very, very close and hits home for me a lot. So the story of Shandine and these group of friends in the episode is they are fighting to get justice for the uranium mining that occurs on the Navajo reservation. I say occurs because it's still something that to this day affects the people, the land, the livestock, everything, right? And so my grandfather, my Nele, and my dad actually were uranium miners. And so I have seen personally the effects that that has had on their health, the health of the land. I also grew up in Church Rock, where the Church Rock uranium land spill happened, right? And so, which devastated that area. And we still feel the effects of that to this day. Like we can't even haul water, right, from our wells because of the contamination of uranium in the resources that we have there. And so when I was asked to do this project, you know, I definitely had carried that, you know, with me and knew the importance of why telling a story like this, which doesn't necessarily see a lot of coverage in mainstream media, was so important. And of course, just working with actors that I've like seen growing up, and you know, it was such a great experience. And just like also working with Tasba, who was such a great leader, and making sure that again that story was told as accurately and as correctly as possible.
You know, 10, 15 years ago, when I was wanting to get into the field of media, it seemed like there were not very many people who were reflective of me with my Native identity on the screen, much less leading a primetime Fox show. But that is changing. We are seeing that before our very eyes.
Yeah, no, again, it's amazing. Like I when I'm on set sometimes on a project and I'm working alongside, you know, other actors that I know who have been in this game for a while, you know, and we look around and we see how many like, you know, young Native actors and artists who have all these opportunities right now that are being presented. I remember talking with a colleague of mine on this recent project that we filmed last year that's going to be coming out soon, and it's an exciting one. We looked around, and I was like, "Do you remember like when we were first starting out in this business, how little we had and how much we had to scavenge for all of these things? And now look where we're at now. Like, how amazing is it to see so many young Native people be able to share their stories in this way?" And it really did like speak to the years of struggle and the years of like, feeling like that lone voice, in the room of just like, we need more, we need to do this better, we need to do this even with more ferocity, like it just made us feel like, wow, like we've come a long way. We still have a long way to go. But in that moment, we both looked at each other like, dang.
Yeah, no, seriously. Like I get amazed too when I see things like that show, The Accused, that you starred in, also Dark Winds on AMC, which you're also in, and shows like Reservation Dogs, movies like Friedrich Face and Me, and gosh, it's just mind blowing to see that. It's I know it's been years in the making for a lot of people. It has not come without struggle, but it seems like now it's coming out all at once.
Yeah, and I think it's also exciting because now there's just new boundaries to break, new like stories to share. I think, for a while, we were just kind of itching to get ourselves out there, right? To get our stories heard and seen. And now that we're in this really amazing time where now it's like, okay, now what else can we show? What stories can we tell? That's not just about like being heard and seen, right? And I think that's what excites me about like the next couple of years is that we're going to be seeing some amazing projects that like wouldn't have seen the light of day if it wasn't for the countless effort and work of people who have been in this business for years before, working and fighting to make sure that we had a chance to be at the helm. Especially, I think, again, like the reason why I say like we are more than capable of doing this is because Fry Bread Face and Me had a majority Native crew, predominantly Navajo crew, involved in the making of that whole project. And you can see just how much care and respect and authenticity and all the things that went into that project shows like we are more than capable, right? Like we can direct, we can act, we can produce, we can design, right? And I think that's what I'm most excited about now is like, man, we're going to start seeing some really, really unique stories and perspectives that are just more showing the human side of our experience rather than just the side that focuses on all the pain and trauma that we've gone through, right? And I think we had to have that time. And now I think it's now a rebirth of all these other perspectives and stories that can now come out and see the light of day.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's really exciting to see and being a witness to it firsthand, especially since this is the kind of media that, I consume, right? Native person seeking other Native material, right? So that's cool. But what's interesting now, too, is that this is more of these stories are coming on a platform that has a wider audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's, again, just been amazing to now be able to go on any streaming platform and find something that's about Native people, made by Native people, right? And now we just need more. We always need more.
So what's next for you? I know that you're saying no to projects, so that must mean you're keeping pretty busy, probably dealing with some really cool projects.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously Dark Wind Season 3 is in the works. So I got word that my character will be back for Season 3, so yay!
Oh, congratulations. That's awesome. And you play
you.
Natalie Bluehorse, right?
Yeah,
okay.
I know, which was not a role that was actually... that role was written, and then they were kind of like not sure whether or not they wanted someone for that role. And then I actually had auditioned for majority of the roles that were on the show. Mm-hmm. And when I didn't get any of them, I was like, oh, well, say levy, you win some, you lose some.
Right.
And that was a role that was created for me. So,
wow.
So yeah, so talk about a flex.
Oh my gosh. I was going to say now people are writing roles for you.
Yeah, I know. It was awesome. I mean, and I really appreciate the producers and the executive producers like Zahn, who like really wanted more Navajo people to be involved in the production, especially in season 2. So it was really cool to kind of, be this little minor character. And then like all of a sudden they were like, oh yeah, no, this is going to be a thing now. This is your role. And I was like, oh, this is so cool.
That is awesome. That is so cool. Maybe you can put a
and
good
I
word in
have
for
other
me.
All right, for sure. I mean, it's possible. Again, it's like just go for it, because you just never know. You know what I mean? Like one no might mean, another yes in another way. And I think that was a really cool thing to have happened. And then I have other projects that are going to be coming out soon, which I can't say just yet. But it's exciting. Again, I'm really just excited to see the more plethora of projects that are going to be so cool and different, and and then just still touring my documentary that aired on PBS, which is currently airing still on PBS nationwide. So there's just so many things. I would love to share more information about them, but can't because of things like NDAs and stuff like that.
Right. Oh man, those pesky contracts and things like that.
I know, like you got to keep it quiet for a little bit, and I'm like, okay, sure.
about this documentary, tell me about that, because I think I might have just missed that one.
Yeah, so it's called Indigenize the Plate, and so it's my
I
first
did see your
full-length.
photos that you posted about that.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's my first full-length documentary, and so we were very fortunate enough to have been distributed by public broadcasting. So it's, airing on your local PBSs, and you can look up to see when it's airing in your area, but it's also available on PBS Passport right now. So that was it was a food documentary about the intersections of food sustainability and cultural sustainability through the eyes of a young contemporary Native person who is navigating both this ancestral world plus a modern world, and how I made connections with the Quechua community in Peru and seeing how they're sort of tackling the same issues that we have here in Turtle Island. So it's very much, it's not like this is, the unfortunate thing we're dealing with. It's more like, okay, here's the issue. What are the solutions? Where are the solutions? How do we find the solutions to, figure out these challenges that we're facing, which all Indigenous people are facing across the world, right? Of like the environment and climate change and how that's impacting our resources. And so, so that was a very amazing, again, grueling project to have undertaken. And so, again, one of many things that I filmed last year. All year last year was filming, which is amazing, but also very exhausting.
So listening to you and looking at your resume, it seems like nowadays you have to have many things on the fire at once when you go into this multimedia type world, right? You're an actor, you're a voice actress, you're a writer, you're an art director, and a documentarian. It's like you've got so many things. Is that what you need to do nowadays to be able to get your way in?
I wouldn't necessarily say you would need to do it. I think it's just a natural part of being an artist, right? Is that in order to progress in creativity and whatever it is that you want to create as an artist, sometimes that means your tool belt has many different things in it. And I think that that's the beauty of what I find being an artist myself. I always say, like, I'm an artist first, and then I'm everything else second, third, fourth, right? Is because I find it to be important as an artist to always learn and continuously learn and pick up new skills and find new things that you can add to your tool belt as much as possible. I think stagnation is a main challenge when it comes to artistry. And so I always strive to not be stagnant. So if that's something that like I could share as like a word of wisdom to younger people or whoever is, wanting to pursue whatever artistic field they want to, is that always be open to learning and always be willing to be open to that, I think. And that's why, I never did art direction before for a film, but I didn't let that stop me. Right. I was like, if anything, I can learn, and I pick things up pretty fast. So I'm pretty sure I can get this down. And by the end of it, I was, again, just very happy to have learned a new skill. And so now that can come into play whenever I think of like, whenever I direct my first feature, right? Like I want to be able to be like, oh yeah, I remember this in art, and I remember this in like camera or whatever, like little role that I'm playing. And so I think it's up to the individual to decide what are you open to learning? What do you are already a master at? And how do those two things work together to, get you to where it is that you want it to be and what you want to achieve?
So I think you just gave us a little nuggets of what the future may hold for you. A feature film then, huh?
I wrote my first feature, so
That's awesome.
so hopefully within like another 2 or 3 years, maybe that will be like, my feature, my director debut for a feature film. So
When it comes to that, I mean, have you just come to, I guess, see or experience that from thought of a project to, its actual completion, it takes some time, right? I mean,
oh yeah.
I mean, some people probably think, oh, it'll happen really quickly within the year, but it seems like people work on stuff for a long time before it actually either gets started and gets finished.
Yeah, no, I mean, the development part of a project can take years, right? And so just the idea, before you even get to a script can sometimes just take a while, depending on what it is, again, that you want to achieve. And so when I think of a project and just how much it goes through phases, yeah, I think some people don't quite understand how many phases it goes through. I mean, even up until you're on set filming, it changes, right? And so, but I think that's also, again, the fun and the beauty of it. And also it's just, you never know what to expect. And I think, when I say when, because I'm manifesting it for myself, when I direct my first feature, I definitely am going to see it one way, and then it's going to completely change along the way. And
Sure.
yeah, and I think that's an amazing testament, again, to the artistic will that we have as humans, right?
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to manifest myself in your film in some capacity.
Oh my gosh. You have I'm so excited because I mean, this is a film that I've been wanting to write for a while.
Yeah.
And so I think it, was just a matter of like, again, just really stepping into your confidence, I think is something that I've been really practicing more. Because I think sometimes when we have been accustomed to needing permission or feeling like we're not, what's the syndrome, imposter syndrome, that we feel like, oh, do I belong here? Do I have a space at this table? Do I have a way into this room? I think now for me personally, in my sort of stage of who I am right now and what I want to create, is I'm no longer asking permission. I deserve to be here. I am worthy to be here. I worked hard to be here. So therefore, I'm going to make whatever it is that I envision for myself happen. And how that goes about is going to be up to the universe, I guess. But like, yeah. And I think that I want more Native creatives to feel and be empowered in that way.
Ask and you shall receive, right? That's what also I'm trying to practice too, manifesting and all that. So, Natalie, it was such a pleasure talking with you again. I could talk with you like for hours, but we're coming up at our time here, and I just want to say, thank you for speaking with me again, and hopefully we can regroup eventually down the line.
Absolutely, and get to you too.
All right, thank you so much. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Here Before, Here Now. Thank you so much once more to our guest, Natalie Benally. Check it out wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Here Before, Here Now, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast.